Today on Voice of the Valleys, a gang of migrant men harassed two teenage girls in a KFC in Bridgend in Wales, causing them to seek refuge inside the toilets. Unsurprisingly, the police did nothing in response. However, they did not hesitate to respond to those who took justice into their own hands on the tube when a foreign male was exposing himself with children present. Not only that, ladies and gentlemen, we have more context coming to you on the dinghy invasion and who is funding it and how these dinghies are getting back to France to fuel the invasion. And a liberal lady thinks that she says something smart, but just makes the case all the more against multiculturalism and diversity without even realizing it. All that and more today on Voice of the Valleys. Why, hello there, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to Voice of the Valleys, yet again with your host, friendly neighbourhood far-right thug, always satirical until he is not, Mr. George Cresswell. I hope we're all doing well. Hope we're all having a fantastic morning, afternoon, evening, night, wherever we are. It is currently Tuesday, the 12th of August, 2025, at a lovely 20 to 5 in the evening. And we've got a lot of things to talk about today. You've heard some things in the intro, what we're going to be going into. We have a lot more than that to go into as well. But yeah, appreciate as well everybody that's gone over and obviously left comments on videos, left comments on posts that I've made on the YouTube channel, all of the rest of it. I greatly do appreciate it. One of the videos is also doing pretty well at the moment is the clip talking about the child trafficking ring that was operating up in Rill. Appreciate you guys leaving your comments, likes, and all the stuff on that. Appreciate every single one of you, whether you're a subscriber or not or whatever, that's gone over and checked out, again, episode 39, which is currently by far the best episode that I've done so far in terms of view count at least, and in terms of response, still over 90% positive, well, 93.3% positive in terms of its likes, but that's up over 1,150 views now. So, yeah, greatly appreciate everybody that's sharing the content, everybody that is, you know, helping the reach get wider, and everybody as well that, as I said, either left comments or been in contact as well, providing me with more information, which I think is going to be very, very important going forward, because we have a very, very big fight on our hands, as is evident to see. As is evident to see, we're in a war for our very existence. Let's make no mistake about it. For everyone that says that words are not important in that war, they absolutely are, especially when so many still don't understand the scale of the problem. And even understand the factors involved in the problem as well, particularly due to the radically left-wing coded education system that most of us have been brought up with. A headline story today coming to you from Morgan from the Women's Safety Initiative on X. Pardon me for a moment. This is from a couple of days ago. She posted this on yesterday afternoon, but this was on August 9th. This incident dates back to Saturday evening outside a KFC in Bridgend in Wales, right? There was I think I might have said that there was, so there was a gang of men. There's a suspect driving a black BMW. It says BMW Volvo, but that doesn't really make sense because they're two different car companies. But it appears to be a black BMW or black Volvo with the registration, ladies and gentlemen, which you can look out for if you happen to live in the area, WL64GYY. That is WL64GYY. A 16-year-old and her friend were targeted and harassed by three foreign men in this car. The men initially asked for the girls' phone numbers, and when refused, they continued to harass them. The girls sought refuge in the bathroom, but the men banged on the door, stating that they didn't care about the girls' age. The manager intervened, prompting the men to leave, and advised the girls to wait 30 minutes before exiting through a side door. However, when the girls left, the men pulled up next to their car and resumed the harassment. KFC contacted the police, but it's reported that the police did not respond. That should not surprise you. Should not surprise you whatsoever. In fact, I'm going to read you one of the comments before I carry on with the rest of this that was left on that recent Rill video, which I found quite entertaining, that somebody left talking about the police. And this person said, the police service is now full of left-wing brainwashed commie apparatchiks and steroid-pumped failed bouncers and security guards. What could possibly go wrong? Yep. Absolutely. However, I did have to respond because if you've been following this channel for a little while with some of the clips that we've looked at and stuff like that, the description of left-wing brainwashed commie apparatchiks is certainly accurate. But steroid-pumped failed bouncers and security guards, not always the most accurate. It's actually responded with the videos that I've seen. They more often look like limp-wristed, noodly-armed, vitamin D, creatine and protein-deficient basement dweller builds who, if they would be in possession of a functioning moral compass to go off of, could probably benefit from a test injection or two. Now, this person does make some very valid points, especially about the brainwashed, commie apparatchik stuff. And you've got to be very careful with the now criminalized attributes, ladies and gentlemen, of observation and common sense in the glorious People's Republic of Wales, okay? Have to be very, very careful. But it should be no surprise that the police did not respond in this instance. Should be absolutely not. They don't care. They've got more important things to deal with. An example might be what is coming up in a moment, where they had to evict a schoolgirl who had purchased food inside a McDonald's, but apparently after an argument escalated, the McDonald's decided to pull on the policy of no kids allowed in after 5 p.m. Seems like quite arbitrary policy, but can you imagine if that was the case in this instance, whereby, oh yeah, you have to go out to this gang of foreign men because you're not allowed in here because our policy says so. Seems quite very arbitrary, and it's probably actually going to put a lot of people in danger. I understand, especially with a lot of teens nowadays, a lot of them are troublemakers, a lot of them go out looking for trouble, and a lot of this stuff, and people, they don't get paid enough to deal with half the shit they deal with. I get that, but at the end of the day, this is now turning into a massive safety concern. But at least the police were there for that one. They won't turn up when it's kids being harassed in this way, but if it's kids that may or may not be causing trouble inside a McDonald's, which, by the way, the McDonald's were evidently so keen enough to take her money off her because she was in possession of her food and drink, which later on then when she got arrested got spilled all over the floor. I've got a video coming up for you in a moment of that if you haven't seen it. They were keen enough obviously to take her money off her, and then seemed maybe she was speaking with a bit of an attitude or whatever it might have been. I don't actually know the wider context of the situation, but then she got manhandled into a police car by about 3 or 4 police officers. So this was the original post. The original post reads thusly: an incident happened Saturday night involving my 16-year-old daughter and her friend. They were inside KFC Bridgend, the one across from Sainsbury's, when they noticed 3 foreign men outside watching my daughter. They then went inside and asked for her telephone number, to which she replied she's only 16 and to leave her alone. They continued to harass my daughter, so the girls went into the toilets, where one of the men proceeded to follow and was even banging on the door saying he doesn't care that she's only 16. Eventually, they leave as the manager intervenes. The men appear to get in their car and leave, so the manager makes sure that the girls are okay, tells them to wait for half an hour or so, then lets them leave through the side door to go to their own car to come home. As the girls are leaving the car park, the men appear from nowhere, pulling up in their car. The girls get out and run back into KFC, terrified. The manager calls the police, but for whatever reason that I'm still yet to fathom, so obviously the police I don't think have said anything still up until this point, so this was obviously 3 days ago at this point, no police attended. The car was a black Volvo. It's a black Volvo, ladies and gentlemen. I'm not sure why it says BMW in Morgan's post. Maybe it's just a bit of a typo. And obviously with X, you can't go back and change something if it goes beyond an hour. At least that's what my settings are anyway. I don't know if you can change them, but that's what it says on mine. If the post goes on, if you leave the post up for an hour, you can't then go back and change it. It's a black Volvo car, registration WL64GYY. What the actual fuck is this world coming to? Please share and make your children aware. This could have been a one-off, but unfortunately, we're hearing of these incidents far too often with nothing being done about it. I'm just so grateful to the manager for helping the girls. And this is indeed a very, very all too common occurrence. All too common occurrence. So you have to be very, very careful in today's world, ladies and gentlemen, especially as under the direction of the Labour government in this country, as has been doing for the last 20, 25, 26 years of devolution, whatever it is, but also through successive Conservative and Labour governments in Westminster, going back to Tony Blair, and even before that, you could trace it back to obviously Clement Attlee if you wanted to. This is becoming more and more of a problem, and it's going to be, even if it's not so much of a problem that you notice in your community now, with the initiatives that are being put in place, with the political initiatives that are being put in place, you will notice this more and more and more. And eventually, no matter how hard your liberal sensibilities are ingrained into your brain at the moment, reality will come crashing down on them like a tsunami. They will not hold up to it. It'll be like a little bit like the sentiment that Dostoevsky talks about in Brothers Karamazov about the realist, where they'd sooner deny reality than admit a truth that they don't want to. Basically, I'm paraphrasing a lot, and I can't remember exactly where it is, because if you've tried reading the Brothers Karamazov, I'm about 2/3 of the way through it at the moment. I've let it go for a little while because I've been reading the book that I mentioned before, The Last Girl, because I want to do a bit more of a breakdown on that for some separate content. But it's a great story. It's a great story, but it's a dense read. The audiobook, if you do want to read it and listen to it, by the way, I've often found that reading books and listening to them are a good way to retain a little bit more of the information about them. And especially if they have a really good narrator, it does actually bring the story to life a lot more. On Spotify, at least, the narrator is very good. Is very, very good. I have to say that. But again, this is no surprise from the police. Thank God the manager was able to intervene the way that he or she was able to. And thank God that the girls, at least as far as I know at the moment, are safe. But make no mistake, your girls are not safe. Your girls especially are not safe. And they are prime targets for these predatory men that are coming from predatory cultures a lot of the time. But our government want them in because they want to appease and bring in a foreign voting bloc, like I've said time and time again, to make it so that you can't vote your way out of the initiatives that they want to bring in. They're going to use democracy to get rid of democracy. They're doing that through bringing people in. They're doing that through dissolving the judicial system, making it deliberately two-tier, where, for example, just before we get onto that example of the young girl who was removed from that McDonald's, as I'll get onto in a moment, this is a headline I was going to get onto after that from the Daily Mail. Intoxicated Nigerian man who sexually assaulted a teenager walks free as victim tells court he ruined her life and is now scared to walk alone. This was published today. A Nigerian man who sexually assaulted a young woman next to Bournemouth Beach has avoided jail. Ayomaide Famakinde, 23, was given a community order for sexually assaulting a teenager, ladies and gentlemen, by the judge, who said that the offence was a, quote, momentary aberration. It's not going to be a momentary aberration in the mind of that young girl who now has to deal with this for the rest of her fucking life. And that Famakinde had a difficult life. I'm sorry, that young girl now is going to have a very difficult life from this moment going forward. And I'm sorry, compassion to the criminal is cruelty to the innocent. Compassion to the criminal in this case is cruelty to the innocent. The defendant approached his 19-year-old victim late at night and put his hands down her jogging bottoms. As the 19-year-old tried to fight him off, they fell to the ground together. Famakinde ignored her shouts to stop and carried on until he was pulled off the victim by his friend. The two men walked off together while the teenager was left in tears. Not only the incident there, the big thing, and this is a thing that training jiu-jitsu really taught me as well. Obviously, I'm not speaking for the girl in this instance, but one of the most terrifying things in these scenarios where somebody's a lot more dominant, stronger, whatever it is than you and has the advantage is the feeling of helplessness. That is a real terrifying aspect, whether you're a man or a woman. I can speak to that personally. The feeling of helplessness. Where I've had some training partners, one of them immediately springs to mind where I've trained with them and I can just do nothing and I cannot even get up off the floor. I'm just trying to get up and escape and there's literally nothing I can do and I'm getting tired and exhausted. And it's a little bit like where you see animals in the wild and the animal that has the advantage is just wearing down this other animal. It might be like a tiger versus what's a good animal to go off of? Like a deer-like animal that the deer is trying to escape, or you have this big bison that's trying to beat off all of these other animals, and I think it's a leopard. I think it might be a leopard or a tiger that will latch its mouth over the mouth and nose of the other animal and basically stop it from breathing and suffocate it to death. Is terrifying, and it is a slow. There's no words to describe that fear when it sets in. Right. So even if it's not the case of like you get outright sexually assaulted and stuff like that, that is one thing that jiu-jitsu in particular really makes you appreciate. And why I found one of Paul Golding's statuses on X quite amusing with the the recent drama involving Mohammed Hijab and him having to raise £670,000 in a defamation penalty or something, and he was going to challenge somebody to an MMA fight, I think. And Paul Golding pulled up and he said, "Hey, listen, I'll do boxing, I'll do Thai boxing, I'll do any of this stuff, but I won't do any of that gay grappling shit on the floor." I'd be like, I love what Jocko Willink says about it. Again, I've referred to this back time and time again. Is if you're in the street or something like that, and you're good, relatively good fitness and stuff like that, but if somebody's at a distance from you, you have one recourse that at least gets you out of the situation, provided you're obviously quick enough, you're able to run on it, and that is to run away, right? If somebody doesn't have their hands on you, you can still escape by running, in theory, right? It doesn't always work out that way, but you have that option. As soon as somebody grabs you, as soon as somebody grabs your clothing, somebody grabs my shirt, for example, and judo tosses me to the ground and gets on top of me, can't run away anymore. Can't run away anymore. It's a whole different thing to learn how to fight from that environment. But imagine what would have happened if his friend hadn't pulled him off. Pulled him off. And I'm wondering, did the friend see what was going on beforehand? Did the friend see him go up to this woman and start molesting her and just think, oh, well, I'm just going to let that happen. I'm not even going to say anything to him. I'm not going to, say, what the fuck are you doing? This is grossly evil. Again, this is the people that have come into this country, whether they're first generation, whether they're second, whether they're third, made no effort to integrate. And many of them are just going to have to be sent back on a plane home. It's as simple as that. Judge ruled that the offence was a momentary aberration and that the defendant had a very troubled background and difficult life. I'm sorry, a lot of us have very difficult upbringings and stuff like that, but that doesn't justify what happened here. He was given an 18-month community order and ordered to do 150 hours of unpaid work. A custodial sentence was deemed too severe. It makes you think he's just going to be left with that, right? Makes you think, what's this young girl, for example, going to be left with? Like, not just a young girl in this instance where she was sexually assaulted. She's now got to deal with the physical, mental, and emotional scars, right? And move past that. And is, as the mother said, is now scared to go out on her own with good reason. Where are the police? Again, well, the police are worried about what you're posting on social media, right? We know that. They're worried about making sure everybody toes the party line like something straight out of 1984. In many instances, we've surpassed 1984 now. I'll have to continue my Wrong Speak series as well. I remembered on my other podcast, I did an audio-only Wrong Speak series, didn't I? I'll have to restart that up as well. So now, as I said, this footage was posted yesterday in a state that police directly and indirectly facilitate the mass gang rape of young girls by Pakistanis predominantly. Obviously, there's others like, Bangladeshis and other ethnic minorities, and in many ways, British as well. Okay, paedophiles of all nature, some more than others, but paedophiles of all nature. In the name of diversity and multiculturalism and restorative justice and compassion for the criminal and cruelty to the innocent, right? This massive demoralization effort. It's hard to imagine something more demoralizing than having 3 or 4 police officers turn up and manhandle you out of a McDonald's after you've just purchased your food. Now, I'm not sure what went on before this. See, the lady, the teenage girl in this instance, is holding her food. She's holding the bags of food with her drink, right, as she's being manhandled to the car. And sadly, she loses the food and it goes all over the floor and her drink does and everything else, right, as she's being manhandled off. So quite clearly, there was a business transaction between her and the McDonald's at one point. Quite clearly, the relationship between her and the staff or whatever it was at least good enough at one point for them to agree to the transaction. So presumably she wasn't threatening any staff. She wasn't making a nuisance of herself. She wasn't hitting people with a wet floor sign that was left out, or cussing at the staff, or again, cussing at people in the establishment, whatever it is. Quite clearly at some point, everything was civil enough for them to take her money off her. But as something has happened, it seems that there's just been a violation of this arbitrary policy where they've said that no kids are allowed in there without adult supervision after 5 p.m. for some reason, right? Bear in mind, again, she seems to be in her mid to late teens. So again, it's not like she's 11 years old and you'd have a child a missing parent issue or missing child issue, where it'd be a real child safeguarding issue. It is slightly different. But again, it just seems that it was this violation of this arbitrary policy. And then she had this very embarrassing ordeal of being manhandled out of the restaurant. So here's that video for you now, ladies and gentlemen.
No, you won't throw around.
Now, you could make the case that after the police have called, that she's resisting arrest. But again, big question is, why is she being arrested? What did she do wrong? Why is this policy in place in McDonald's whereby they just don't allow people they class as kids in the restaurant after 5 p.m.? It makes you think again, if this was their response to this, or why did the police respond to it, and then the police can't respond to a child safeguarding issue where they're being sexually harassed by migrant men in the KFC in Wales, right? What would the McDonald's staff have done if this girl had come in, and reported the incident in the first example that we had? Would they have been as, understanding? Would they have employed this policy in the hardline way that they seem to have in this example, and potentially put them at the peril of these predators? I'm not saying they would have, by the way, ladies and gentlemen. I'm not saying that they would have. But I'm saying it's a question, when you have massive arbitrary policies like this and you enforce them seemingly, as I said, because I don't know all the facts of this situation, and I haven't seen anybody provide more context as to what happened, right? If there was an instance where the teen, for example, was causing a disruption within the restaurant, but again, quite clearly, the relationship between her and the staff and her and the business was good enough to the point where they took her money off her, right? And now she doesn't even get to enjoy what she paid for. Now, when you see all this, ladies and gentlemen, you see blatant police corruption. You see your daughters being sacrificed on the altar of multiculturalism and diversity. You see many instances the police are directly enabling this, and in many instances partaking in the abuse themselves, right? Seemingly, at the very least. People then, when they have instances of this, are going to start fighting back. They're going to get sick and tired of seeing this, and they're going to get sick and tired of seeing people doing nothing about it, especially the police, which are literally paid pretty good money to do this, to make this sacrifice, right? And the police, in many instances, will now actively show that they are not on the side of the people that they're supposed to protect, and they will actually start hunting people that are trying to protect themselves and their communities. So an incident happened recently, and the way that it was reported in the media was absolutely disgusting, right? First off, you'll see in this article from the news now, the Daily Mail, sorry, and I'm going to play this video in a moment, and you'll see here that the person whom is the subject of this video is a man seemingly of some kind of African descent, right? And prior to this, the video doesn't show it. He had exposed himself. I can't find any of the other photos which were circulating around X at the time to show this either, unfortunately. One of them wasn't censored, so I wouldn't show that on screen anyway, but the other one was censored, so I can show you. This guy was quite literally in the middle of the train car where families and kids were around, completely naked, exposing himself. And obviously this is a country where that kind of stuff is no bueno. You might have that kind of stuff being normalized in other countries around the world. That's their fucking business, right? It's not okay here. It's not okay to do that, especially in front of kids. Especially in front of kids, right? But instead now, because there was a ruckus that erupted on the train because of this, and what are now being dubbed as Vigilante 2 passengers, right, assaulted the man, They assaulted the man, and they tried to make it as though the man was having a mental health break and stuff like that. But we see so many instances of this that excuse isn't going to fly in many ways. They are now potentially facing arrest and police hunt for dealing with this problem themselves. So here is the video that I wanted to show you, ladies and gentlemen. I'm just waiting for it to load so I can bring it up on screen for you. And what you'll see is, and this is my critique of the media again, especially the mainstream media outlets, is you'll see on this video, the Mail have put a pixel filter over the face of the person who exposed himself. They haven't put any other pixelation in order to anonymize the person to anyone else in the frame. Seemingly. I believe aside from one lady that comes in later. But the so-called tube vigilantes, they have to have their faces exposed. But the man who is exposing himself on the tube is the person that the Mail, I'm assuming the Mail, but at least in this video, whoever made this video, again, it's on the Mail website, so I'm assuming the Mail made it. It has their watermark on it. They chose to keep his identity anonymous, and they chose to, in many ways, by omission in this instance, by not pixelating their faces, dox the people that did this, which is truly disgusting. They tried to dox people who want to protect their communities. So just bear with me, ladies and gentlemen. I'm bringing this up on screen for you now. Just bear with me. So here we go.
It's mental health. No. It's mental health. Right. Thank you so much. Give my phone. Mate, can you hear me? What about you? No. You even have to do it, man. What you got to do? I'm still.
So there you go. So that's what happened. That's the aftermath, right? It obviously doesn't show you, and the Mail didn't show you any of the photos that were circulating beforehand either, that, really showed this guy exposing himself in the way that he did. So I'll read on a little bit for you now. Commuters who took the law into their own hands when a tube passenger dropped his trousers in a packed London Underground carriage could face arrest. The British Transport Police believe the naked man, who has since been detained under the Mental Health Act, was assaulted on the District line in East London. Up to 4 men stepped in when he repeatedly refused to pull up his pants at 3:30 p.m. last Thursday. He was pinned to the floor and carried off the train before being arrested by an off-duty police officer. But detectives are probing whether the vigilantes committed any criminal offences in the confrontation after he refused to pull up his pants. So this is the photo, that's the photo. So here it is again, ladies and gentlemen. This is one of the photos that I am referring to when I say I think it's quite disgusting that the media, in this instance, would hide the face of one guy, one of the people that were protecting the people on the train, and protecting his fellow people and children that were on there, and the perpetrator that refused to not expose himself in front of the train users and in front of children, like I said. So this is the state that we're in now, and you wonder why faith in the police is at an all-time low. You wonder why now people are so sick and tired they're taking matters into their own hands, because they know that the police won't do anything. This is very similar to the incident we saw a little while ago with Daniel Penny in New York, where Daniel Penny restrained, what was his name? Was his name Jordan Neely? I think his name was Jordan Neely, a drug addict that was threatening people on the train. And he stood up, he put him in a restraint, he I think he choked him unconscious, and then I believe Jordan Neely went to some other kind of medical condition, but he actually had a pulse at the time. I covered a couple of videos that come out afterwards. Daniel Penny was wrongly arrested, and they believe they tried to charge him with murder. Eventually, he was exonerated for protecting people on the train, for protecting people on the New York City Underground. And that's why I said, in response to this, in response to seeing that this is what our police were now engaged in, that they wanted to persecute the people that were protecting their fellow people on the train, that we are all Daniel Penny now. This is the responsibility that we have been given. We don't like it. We don't like it, but especially as men, even though we won't get any, well, they are getting a lot of thanks for it, but in a not so long age ago, a lot of the women that likely would have been praising the men doing this now would have called them everything under the sun before, back before a lot of us had our eyes open, so to speak. But we are all Daniel Penny now, especially as men. This is what we've been charged with. This is what we've been charged with, because the people that are actually paid to do this receive fat paychecks and fat pensions, right? No matter other benefits to do it. They won't do it. They won't do it. Too politicized now. They're too politicized. They've been turned into a British equivalent of the Stasi. They've been turned into a British equivalent of the Stasi, where it's not the crime that's taking place that's the problem. It's obviously people getting angry about it and wanting to solve it. And a lot of them, they're just not going to like it because they feel now as though they've been exposed more and more and more. They feel as though they've been exposed more and more and more for their incompetence, and in many instances for their outright malice, because if they were doing their jobs properly, people wouldn't need to intervene in this way. If we had a functioning political system, and a political system that put the country and its people first, pardon me, this incident wouldn't have even taken place. This incident wouldn't have even taken place. Makes you think, though, would the police response be different if it was an instance like this? Because it's not just, white man on black man or white man on black woman, as we like to think about them nowadays, as we've been taught to view things, right? Oftentimes, and this is the thing with the Middle East and other places like that, and these areas of Southern Asia, where a lot of these men are coming from. I don't mean Japan and China necessarily, any of those places. The Afghanistan, Pakistan, areas of the Middle East, very dominated by fanatical Muslim groups and stuff like that, whereby you have women that can't go outside on their own without a male escorting them, and they have to dress up in postbox uniform if they want to go out and stuff like that, right? Otherwise, they'll be assaulted and all manner of things happen to them in the name of their quote-unquote God, right? A lot of horrific stories about things that happen in that book as well. The Last Girl, by the way. There's one instance, I won't spoil too much of it, but there's one instance where Nadia, the poor girl, the Yazidi girl, the subject of the book, who wrote it, she tries to escape at one point, one of her captors in his court. And let's just say that the fate after that was grim, to say the least. And you read a book sometimes, especially when you're listening to the audio, and it's not just as you're reading it, you're picturing what the scene looks like in your mind's eye, but when you're reading something and the picture comes to life so much, you can almost smell what it must smell like. You can almost hear what is going on. You can almost feel, it's almost like you're there looking at it. You can taste the things in the air and stuff like that. I was reading it earlier, and I had one of those, moments where, as I was listening to the description and reading it, I almost was able to put myself there. And it's grim, to say the least, in a lot of these areas throughout the world. If you're a Sabiya, or if you're Sabaya, as it's also known, if it's plural. But what if it was this instance, for example, in Belgium? So the Muslim Caliphate of Belgium in this instance, where a Muslim woman, for daring to commit the cardinal sin of walking around in the summertime with what appears to be a dress that showed her arms, was surrounded and attacked by Muslim men. And this is what we're talking about now. It's often a case where these areas of the world where, again, the West is in many instances fairly blamed for things that they've done, but also in many instances unfairly, because many areas of the world would still be at war with themselves even if we did nothing. And this is an example of that. This is an example of the persecution that these people do against their own people in the name of religion. Only thing is, with mass migration and these suicidally empathetic multicultural and diversity drives, we've now imported it to our countries, and as such, it's our problem. It makes me wonder, would the media have adopted a different response if the white man, the white British man, or the white Belgian man, you know, the European, had intervened in this scenario? I'll turn it up a bit. So yeah, the shit music. In fact, I'm gonna mute it. But you can see here on screen, ladies and gentlemen, she still appears to be wearing is it the niqab? I believe it is. I get them confused from time to time. But she's wearing a dress which shows her arms, right? And it's like a summery dress. It's like white dotted pattern. And the guy comes up behind her and just takes her legs out from underneath her. Let me rewind that for you, ladies and gentlemen, in case you missed that. So I'm gonna pause it right here, just so you can... Oh, I paused it at the wrong time. I'll pause it by here, just so you can see the dress that the lady is wearing. So this is the dress that she was wearing. For those of you who are listening, not watching, it's like a white... It's like got circles on it, like sort of like a creamy coloured circles on it, and it comes up to just above this part of her and wraps around her body, right? And then you can see what appears to be the straps of a sports bra, a black sports bra, coming over the top of her shoulders, right? Her arms and shoulders are completely exposed, and you can see everything from that point on. But this is something when you see how a lot of girls in our countries dress nowadays, this would pass as conservative, right? Goes all the way down to the tops of her ankles. You can't see anything from there, right? This would pass for conservative, especially when she's got her face completely covered aside from the opening here, right? With her head garment. So this would pass for ultra conservative in Britain nowadays. But watch what happens now as I cut back to the full screen, where you'll see now a man comes up behind her and just callously, heartlessly takes her legs out from underneath her, right? So you see him coming in here now. She's trying to bat him away. He runs in, boom! Takes her legs out. She's on the floor wondering what the hell's going on. And you do seem to see now men intervening. And now the police turn up. The problem is that this is 110% an imported problem. This is 110% an imported problem because it's happening in Belgium. But this just goes to show you. That this stuff would be happening without any of our interventions. When we are blamed for things like this, when we are blamed for these men being radicalized in this way, it's often very unfair. Yes, you contextualize it with the wars in the past. Yes, you contextualize it with our frankly unnecessary intervention in the Middle East on false premises, right? Yeah, we can talk about all that. But this religion that enables this goes back 1,400 years. And we fought 1,400 years to keep it out of our countries. No politician had the right to give our countries over to this. No politician had the right to give our countries over to this. They did it because they knew that they would get more votes and democratic power out of it, and they could use it to use democracy to remove democracy. That's what they wanted. And I feel sorry for this poor woman. That she's in this position. That I can only imagine. Maybe she's an ardent believer in Islam. I can't imagine she would be. I would imagine if she wouldn't go outside wearing this dress. But maybe, just maybe, if all of these men were removed and Islam was completely removed from Belgium, she would have a much better life. She would have a much better life, much happier life, much safer life. Maybe all of us would, if we removed, in particular in this instance, which I believe is doing more harm than anything at the moment, the spread of Islam that is completely tied in. It's completely tied in with the issue of immigration. Okay, you cannot address the issue of Islam without addressing the issue of immigration. Right? You just cannot address it. Right? A lot of these people, they need to be sent back to their countries of origin, whether they are 1 or 2 generations removed from there anyway. They need to, because we got serious problems on our hands. But our government's not going to want to do that because they will lose a lot of their influence from the votes that they have gained from these people, right? They'll lose a lot of the influence from the votes that they've gained, and they can do nothing. They can do nothing to gain favor back with the people that they have betrayed. So this is the thing where it's going to come. Change is now going to come by force one way or another, right? And in this instance, or in our instance, it's going to come from mass public pressure, which is why for everybody that says this is all talk, this is not making any difference, I can promise you it is. The only advantage that we have as regular people, as you'll know, is our ability to organize and our number. That is the only thing that the establishment has to fear from us. Because they have a monopoly on the police, they have a monopoly on force, they have control of the military. They have control of the border force, they have control of everything. They have monopolies on all this stuff, right? That's just a fact. The only thing they don't have a monopoly on is number, is population. They're rapidly trying to change that. That's why they're bringing in so many more people, because they actually want to get as many people in to give them the best chance of keeping us subjugated as possible. They're quite literally building up a foreign army and have been doing so for at least 25 years, 26 years since, well, at least since Tony Blair got in. So that's nearly 30 years now. At least they've been doing this. You can argue that it goes back again even further. You can argue that it goes back to Windrush. You could argue that it goes back to Clement Attlee, Nationality Act and stuff like that. So they're trying to build up this foreign army. That's why they're allowing the small boat migrants in. That's why they're allowing legal immigration to go so high. And that's why they're only putting in, you know, pithy publicity gestures of trying to deal with the problem. They'll think that'll be enough to get people suspicions off them. It won't. People know that there's only one way that this is going to go. This is not going to end well, really, in any way that I can think of, because the evil forces that have the grip on our political system are not going to give back control easily, which is why in many instances I think it's not going to happen until we acknowledge we need something also stronger than any one of us personally. And that's going to involve doing some deep introspection on all of our worldviews, and realizing a couple of things as well. Actually then committing to really things that people have known, that the entire human race has known for the last 2,000 years, until we thought we were so smart that we didn't need it anymore. And this is the destructiveness of pride. This is the destructiveness of pride, and why it's called the cardinal sin, because it will ruin civilizations. It will ruin civilizations. Anyway, coming on to now, again, more now, why you cannot trust the police. And this goes back to the again, people called me a clown in my comments, some of my shorts, for saying about diversity drives and stuff like that in Britain, saying that, oh, you're a clown, diversity, equity and inclusion, DEI is just an American thing. I tell you that it's not. I can tell you that it's not, because obviously we have DEI drives everywhere in every public sector. Every time you see something being discriminated against because of race or ethnicity or religion, whatever it might be, right, that is DEI. That is DEI, right? So because our government calls it different things, because it just doesn't call it outright DEI in many instances, they try to swap equity for equality in the hope you'll get it confused for equality of opportunity and stuff like that. They'll try to use these. The British government is very smart when it comes to this. They're very smart with the terms that they use. And every time then you question something, it makes you think, oh, hang on, you question equality? As if everybody has the same idea on what equality is, right? But this is very sad. PC, so a police constable, harassed a woman as she walked home with her child. I'll give you 3 guesses on what the guy's name was. Maybe you're thinking, I don't know, stereotypical British name, Mike Jones, maybe Stephen Davis. Apologies to any Stephen Davises out there. You know, apologies to any Mike Joneses out there. That's just, I think, the most, stereotypical name. This is in West Yorkshire, by the way. No surprise there. No surprise there. We covered. It seems like there's an epidemic of young girls going missing in West Yorkshire at the moment, which is very, very concerning. Maybe you're thinking of along the lines Tim Woodward. Again, apologies to any Tim Woodwards out there. Maybe his name is George Cresswell. Who knows? No. Raza Mahmood. Raza Mahmood. Just as British as you and me. Police officer who followed a woman in his car as she walked along a street with a child has been sentenced for harassment. Raza Mahmood, who works for the West Yorkshire Police in Calderdale area, was given a 12-month community order, including 80 hours unpaid work, and fined £764 at Sheffield Magistrates Court earlier. This is from the 7th of August, by the way. The court was told Mahmood of College Terrace in Halifax was off duty and in his own car when he followed the woman and shouted, "Oi, come over here." District Judge James Gould said the 13-year-old's behaviour had undermined public confidence in the police service, particularly among members of society who are vulnerable and look to the police for support. Ah, yes, it's this instance of what appears to be, in this instance, very mild harassment. Very, very mild harassment that undermines, faith, undermines public confidence in the police service. Not do they with potentially raping young kids in their cars and aiding the rape gangs in doing what they were doing and threatening the young girls, saying if they said anything, they were going to give them back to the gangs. Nothing to do with them arresting fathers that went to try and rescue their daughters from these gangs, right? Nothing to do with turning a blind eye to everything and arresting people for social media posts, threatening people's grandmothers and all stuff like that through their Ring doorbells. None of that undermines public confidence. None of that undermines public confidence. Still, this shouldn't have happened. Again, call me discriminatory, call me whatever. Whenever I see a police officer who will now have similar surnames to Raza Mahmood, immediately, no matter what, I will get suspicious. It's a little bit like Charlie Kirk that said because of DEI and stuff like that now in America, if he was to see a black pilot, he would have questions now, which he didn't have before. Is this person qualified to fly this plane? Because they tried to implement DEI to have the first all-black female cabin crew and pilot, and then all of a sudden planes started falling out of the sky with passengers in them and endangering people's lives, right? So again, anytime I see now these things, there will be this pattern recognition and will be this knowledge that because DEI and these left-wing ideologies have been so far baked into our public institutions that, hang on, who the hell am I dealing with? Who the hell am I dealing with, and should they be a police officer? It's sad that it's come to that. It's very sad that it's come to that. But this is pattern recognition. This is understanding of the political system, which obviously the political system itself doesn't want and probably will criminalize in the future. And it's just a case of you got to do what you got to do to protect yourself in many instances. And a lot of these people, who we're always told we got to feel sorry for some reason, have shown themselves untrustworthy. They've shown themselves untrustworthy and incompatible with what they're doing. Yet they're being pushed into it more and more and more. And we're told, no, we got to double down on diversity. We got to double down on multiculturalism and all this stuff. No, absolutely not. But the woman said here in a victim impact statement, it had left her really scared and paranoid. I honestly thought the man was going to physically hurt me or kidnap me. Could that be classed as, racial or ethnic profiling? Could that be classed as unconscious bias? Oh, you're such a bigot. It's sarcastic, by the way, obviously. The married father of two, Mahmood, was said to have shouted at the woman before driving off in his car and then returning, following her on at least 4 occasions. So this is where we're seeing now that this is, again, pattern recognition and noticing repeated behaviours that is conducive to threatening behaviour. If you see somebody... I often feel it sometimes. If I see somebody behind me in the rear view mirror that I go onto a roundabout and they end up coming off the same exit as me and they seem to be making all the same turns as me. It doesn't matter who it is. It can just be any other car. But I'm thinking, oh, hang on, what's going on here? You'd have the natural paranoid element, even though there's nothing going on. Right? But now you've seen this. You have the same person, same car, hollering at you from the car, of foreign descent, and you likely have an understanding of everything else that's been going on with people from foreign descent, particularly with regards to Rotherham, Oldham, all of these things, right? And now you see him following you on at least 4 occasions. Yes, you're going to think that you're in danger. You'd be silly not to. You'd be silly not to, even if you didn't have the ethnic concerns, right? Even if there wasn't the ethnic concerns and none of this that was amplified by ethnicity and cultural norms and stuff like this, right? You'd still be well within your rights. If this was just a regular person that you may just know from the community, but all of a sudden you seem to see this person more than usual. He's hollering at you from his car and he seems to be following you, especially when you're with your children. And yes, your defensive instincts are going to perk up no matter what. And they should. They should, no matter what's going on. The court heard the woman phoned her partner to ask him to pick her up rather than complete the journey in the dark on foot. That's a smart thing to do. I find myself always looking over my shoulder when I'm out. He can't and should not be trusted around girls and shouldn't be a police officer. Mahmoud remains employed by the force, though he has been suspended from duty and will face internal misconduct proceedings, and now the criminal case against him has concluded. His barrister, Sam Roxburgh, said Mahmoud's conviction for harassment, quote, will see him lose his career. He's clearly someone who valued that job. He had worked hard to become a police officer. I have questions around that. It was a job that he took great pride in, and it was one that he took a great deal of time in achieving. With the state of the police officers that we see nowadays, again, I have massive questions about this. But this is the photo of the guy that was included on the article, ladies and gentlemen. So this is the guy. This is the guy that was recently involved in this harassment case, which I believe it said that he was convicted for, and he got, again, a slap on the wrist. There's no deterrent. There's no deterrent. 600, not even four figures, 80 hours of unpaid work, and then a 12-month community order. What kind of deterrence? What kind of deterrence is this? It isn't one. It isn't one. Speaking of deterrence, the government obviously now have no deterrent or no reason to deter the invasion of boats coming across the channel, right? And they say they're going to, but they never will because it's in their political interest not to. What is the biggest thing about this, however, is that people think that these are genuine refugees, as I've said before. I don't see how people don't see through the propaganda campaign at this point. They think they are genuine refugees seeking asylum, and they are not. They are not. This is being facilitated from very, very high up. Very, very high up by very evil institutions. Global institutions like BlackRock and BlackRock is who we're going to be coming on to in a moment, like the UN, World Economic Forum, that come up time and time again, the EU, but then there's subsidiaries that they work through and the very, big companies that not only in this instance, they're buying up land in the UK like there's no tomorrow. They're buying up properties to shove these migrants into, to deliberately destabilize our countries and our royal family. The government are all too keen to go along with it because likely they're getting kickbacks from these massive companies as well, like BlackRock, State Street. Who's the other one? I think was Lockheed Martin, one of them, the big military contractors and stuff like that. But BlackRock, as Andrew Bridgen has just come out with, this video was posted this morning. He posted another video, which I'll refer back to now as well, of the boats being recycled and sent back to France. This shows how complicit our governments are. But what it is coming from is big corporations who are subservient to these globalist entities like BlackRock, via contract with the UK Home Office, facilitating this invasion of our countries. Here is that video for you now, ladies and gentlemen, which Mr. Bridgen will explain.
You may have heard we've got this sort of dinghy invasion across the channel.
I just look at that.
We're getting 800 a day.
There was a whole batch. Yeah, hang on. I have to go back because there's someone coming. There was a whole batch of dinghies. Hey, this lorry is getting on a ferry. So the dinghies come into Dover, they get loaded onto a truck, they go back to France.
And he sent that, he notified GB News in the UK and Nigel Farage that he offered them the clip, which they didn't come back to him, that the lorry in question that's moving the dinghies across the channel from Dover is operated by a company called GXO. That's a company owned by BlackRock, one of the biggest logistics companies in Europe. And it was under contract to the Home Office, the government in the UK at the time. You may have heard we've got this.
Yeah, GXO is a massive company. GXO is a massive company. They service pretty much a lot of the companies within the UK. I know that I think, pardon me, a lot of places like Costa Coffee and places like that have a lot of deliveries from GXO, people like that. They're absolutely massive. This is what you're seeing now, corporations who are subservient to more corporations because they're owned by these big corporations, mega corporations like Blackrock and places like that, who are trying to facilitate this invasion and are recycling the dinghies and sending them back to France. As he said, this was reported to GB News and Nigel Farage directly. None of them wanted to know. This was apparently reported to GB News back in 2023. The guy sent this. Possibly even earlier than that, 2022, if I'm judging by the comments on this post. So this, now, ladies and gentlemen, you saw a little bit of it in that clip. You saw a little bit of the footage in that clip. This is the footage that was there of the dinghies that were just sent back to France. So they say smash the gangs. Why is it that we are smashing the gangs, quote unquote, yet we're sending the dinghies back to France to be used again by more of these invaders? And it does seem, as I said before, the GB News and Nigel Farage didn't want to know. You had other prominent figures, which say what you want about them for their politics and for their rhetoric and for their outlook on things. People like Steve Laws and Active Patriot and people like that were out doing this long before anyone else. They were down at Dover, for example, documenting these boats coming over long before Nigel Farage went out there and was doing his publicity stunts with the Jet 2 music and stuff like that. And just goes to show, especially with the decisions that Reform have made at the moment, since the election collapsed for them basically last year, but obviously Labour got in, that we should be very, very suspicious of them, that they seem to have turned the establishment corner, and that's where they seem to be going, which is very, very sad to see. But here's that footage for you now, ladies and gentlemen. It just seems that they'll only care when there's a political, initiative to be made from it. Same thing with the grooming gang inquiry that Nigel Farage was saying that he was going to fund and never did.
So last night, I noticed there was an old back. Yeah, hang on. I have to go back because there's someone coming. There was a whole batch of dinghies in the little area near the crane in the boatyard. Loads of them, all numbered. You'll have just seen that clip, hopefully. And I thought, OK, tomorrow the lorry's probably going to come. And guess what? There it is. So I'm going to go over there and just see if it's the same truck. All right, today we're going to try and follow it.
Disgusting. So I'll just see if I can take it forward a little bit now. So they actually do in the video, they actually follow the lorry. Guy's committed. He's just cycling along, on his bike. And here we go. So this is where they have followed the lorry to its destination. And as you just saw in the clip, this is where they see it being loaded onto the ferry.
Okay. All right, that's it. Boom. Okay, I'm inside. I saw the lorry. It was just the other side of that fence. I'm now going to drive round. Now, what is it doing? Hiding there. There it is. There it is. RX-68, there's the driver in it, so he's going to see me doing this. And I don't care. There's the number plate. RX-68, YKA. This lorry is getting on a ferry. So the dinghies come into Dover, they get loaded onto a truck, they go back to France.
So the dinghies come into Dover, they get loaded onto a truck, they go back to France. It is an extremely well-funded, well-organised invasion operation, because these people, they're not coming here to contribute to our society. They're coming here to enrich themselves off the benefits, likely send a lot of them back home, and to leech off of the British taxpayer. Which they say time and time again, they're going to bring their dependents. You have the iconic clip from Patrick Christie's talking to the guy over in Calais, who says, the British have everything. They give me everything I need, gives me. It's literally the only, coherent sentence, or only sentence at all he's able to articulate. Right? These are the supposed brain surgeons and stuff like that we're being told are coming over. But a British reporter also went over and spoke with a couple of Yemeni migrants who were waiting in France to cross the channel. Apparently, he says, in France, people stop and deport us. The British police, however, accept us. I have a family of 5 in Yemen. I will bring them to England too. I have a family of 5 in Yemen. I will bring them to England too.
England and not Français.
Police France no stop, exit.
And England police.
No problem.
Are you going to England on a vehicle, lorry?
تروح بريطانيا بسيارة وقارب.
Yes, this car.
Car.
Yes.
Okay. And where are you from?
Yemen.
From Yemen.
Yemen.
Yes.
Do you have family?
Yes. Family.
Where are they? London?
Family of Yemen, and then after England.
Come to England.
Yes.
So you, England first,
Yes.
and then family.
Yes.
Is this your son?
No, my friend.
Friend?
Yes.
Okay.
In England عشان English.
English?
Yes. أريد أتعلم الإنجليزي.
School, English.
You can learn English at school.
Yes.
So remember in your school age, Gemma, the one thing that the school system did teach us, it was in maths. They didn't teach us much about bills and taxes and any of this stuff, right? However, one thing they did teach us in maths in particular was something known as the order of operations. And why is this relevant? It isn't particularly relevant, but it goes by a couple of names. If you were in school, when I was in school, and in the school that I was in, it was called BODMAS, BODMAS, stands for brackets, odds, division, multiplication, addition, subtraction. That's what it stands for. Basically, if you have a sum involving many different mathematical operators, pluses, fractions, brackets, also known as parentheses. So that's why you may sometimes see it called PEMDAS, I believe some people others call it. Parentheses, exponents, multiplication, division, addition, subtraction. It gives you the correct way to do things in terms of mathematical operations. Now, let's apply an order of operations to people fleeing war zones. Let's apply an order of operations to people fleeing war zones. What tends to happen, let's say a bomb is going to be dropped, or a bomb is dropped, your country's at war. Who do you send away first? Who do you send away from the war zone first? You'd think first off would be children. First off would be children. And then next on the list after that would and children and pregnant women, you sort of group in together. So obviously pregnant woman is carrying a child. Then you would have the women. Usually they would go with the children, right? That's where you get, women and children first, right? But mothers will give their lives up for their children if the time has come to it. If they're virtuous and good, right? And then and only then, should the battle be all but a losing battle, there's no way to win it. Then you would retreat as a man. It's your duty to stay there and fight. It's your duty to stay there and fight. So that's the order of operations. So why is it that when we're being told that these are refugee, asylum seekers, all of these things, right? They've trekked all across Europe to get here, and they've had a hard journey and all stuff like that, despite the fact that every country they've come through after getting out of their home country when they got into Europe is perfectly safe for the most part, usually even more so for them because they've been colonized by people like them. But the order of operations is all wrong. They're doing the sum all wrong. These are not... Okay, the one guy in this clip seems to be quite young. Maybe, what is he, mid to late teens, maybe? But again, a young man. A young man, it seems like. You have the older man, presumably the guy's father, and you have a young man. If they are fleeing persecution or whatever it is, why are they not staying there and fighting? Why did they not send their women and children away first? Why is it that his family of 5 back in Yemen, he's going to bring them to England? Why did he, if they were genuinely fleeing anything, why did he not send them first? Yeah, you hear that, ladies and gentlemen? That's the sound of a narrative falling apart. That's the sound of a narrative falling apart right there. So that's what they want you to believe, but these people in many instances, you can say that they're coming here seeking a better life or whatever. That shouldn't come at the expense of our own people's life in their homeland. That shouldn't come at the expense of our own people's life in our homeland. Whether you realize it or not, when they get here, your democratic freedoms are being eroded. And it's all happening by design. At least maybe now you can see that the order of operations is all off. Just look at these people wherever they go. Poor, our country is bad. But you want to know people I really do feel sorry for with how much their country is now seeing the impact of this as well? That country is Japan. That country is Japan. Because from what I understand, from the clips that I've seen, from the videos that I've seen and stuff like that, the Japanese people are an amazing, amazing people. Let's see if I can find this video here. Oh, I can't find it. I must not have bookmarked it. There's an amazing video. It's interesting sounds coming from outside my window. Amazing video came out of Japanese tourists coming over to England. I believe they're outside Buckingham Palace in the UK. And I can't find the video now. It's kind of shit. And they are taking pictures with the King's Guard. I think this might be the video. This is not the exact video I was looking for. But they're trying to take pictures and videos with the King's Guard. And these people, these Japanese people, I think I found the video now, if it's going to play, just seem to be exceedingly respectful to other countries and other people's cultures. Where, for those of you who don't know, ladies and gentlemen, when you go to see the King's Guard outside Buckingham Palace or wherever they might be, they take things very, very seriously. Obviously, they're guarding one of the most important places on the planet. And they take their role very seriously. And they have this white box outside where they're stationed. And you often see them when they do their parades and stuff like that. If somebody gets in the way, they don't care. They don't care who you are. They will just bowl you out of the way. They won't even break stride. You hear them shout that iconic shout, "Make way for the King's Guard," or "Let go of the reins." When tourists grab the reins of the horses, they shout, "Let go of the reins." They have, they have swords. They have the iconic uniforms with the distinctive metal helmets, right? But this is a video compilation of just how respectful, in particular, because you see no end of clips of tourists, whether they're Americans, whether they may be other Europeans, especially those coming from other cultures like Middle East and South Asia and stuff like that, the kind of ones that have done other atrocities in this country, stuff like that. They show no respect. They show no respect whatsoever. They grab the reins, they stand way too close, they don't listen, and then when they get shouted at, right, and the Royal Guard are very blunt, right? The Royal Guard are very blunt, as they have to be. They then look as if they're victims and stuff like that. But this is, for example, the Japanese tourists coming over and the respect that they show for the King's Guard here. Oh, there we are. So you see the young girl, she bows to the horse. They always bow to the horse. But you can see here, they don't even think about going inside that box. They do not even think about going inside that box. They're exceedingly respectful. Okay, maybe she stands on the line. Maybe she didn't realize, but I think he might have accidentally stood inside the box there. But exceedingly respectful, for the most part. I think that's just a part of their culture. This is just a part of their culture, where they're just exceedingly respectful and generous. You have to give it to them. You have to give it to them. And I always think back again to the Japanese ambassador for the UK, and just how much of a beloved figure he is, right? Which makes me sad when I see what's happening to their country at the moment, at the hands of people that have done similar atrocious things to ours. right? And seemingly they have similar political problems to what we do. They have a radically left obsessed, government figures that want more of this diversity and multiculturalism and stuff like that. But this was very sad to see. You have a Japanese woman in this photo, in this video here coming up for you now, ladies and gentlemen, who was harassed by 3 Pakistani migrants in Tokyo, Japan. She was sexually harassed. She actually does get basically nigh on molested by these men, not like stripping off her clothes and raping her in public or anything like that, but truly just disgusting stuff that should never be happening. Why are these men in Japan? They have nothing to add to Japan. Why are these men in Japan?
No, I'm not taking my hand off. No, I'm not taking my hand off. Oh, no, stop it. No.
Disgusting.
No. I am taking my hand on. Guys, I can keep my damn hands on during a photo. No.
They're just disgusting. These people are just disgusting. These people are just disgusting. And the sad thing is that it's happening to one of the most polite and one of the most respectful cultures and people on the planet. You know, this one video which won't play for some reason now, unfortunately, ladies and gentlemen. For some reason, it's not loading properly. There's a video of 2 Pakistani men that are on a train in Japan. And it's sitting, one of them's doing the classic man spread, the other one sat with his leg across his other leg. And the Pakistani friend is the one opposite filming this video, and apparently this is a relatively empty train car, and they've decided to deliberately go next and sit next to this Japanese woman that's just minding her own business on her phone. I would play the video, but it's not working anymore for some reason. Very, very unfortunate. But again, this just goes to show the kind of people that we've brought into our countries, and it's just very sad that this is happening to one of the nicest countries and nicest people on the planet in the modern day, and not only that, the people that move there are demanding, as they always have done, first off under the guise of compassion and we just want to fit in and share our culture with you, until they start colonizing your countries and enslaving you. The Pakistani immigrants and Muslim immigrants are demanding that Japan then change its already beautiful culture in many instances. I love Japanese Christianity, right? When they bring out Japanese Catholics, right? When you see footage of their processions and services and stuff like that, it's truly beautiful, right? It's truly beautiful. But then they demand, when they get there, they get into this foreign land where they are the sojourner or they are the foreigner, and then they demand that the natives change their land to suit them better. It's truly disgusting. And the guy here says, my children are Muslim. I don't let them celebrate Japanese festivals. Instead, they take the day off from school. There's no Islam in Japan. Japan needs to become more multicultural. I'm sorry. No, Japan does not need diversity and multiculturalism. Japan is fine for the most part, the way it is, aside from the treacherous politicians that want more of this, right? They do not need to change their culture to suit you. Many ways, these people need to change their culture to suit the rest of the fucking planet. But let's not go down that route for now. Here's that video for you.
こちらのパキスタン人親子。
皆さんは日本の学校に通われてるんですか？
そうですね。はい。私たちの子供がイスラム教が幼稚園とか学校ではクリスマスとかあとハロウィンとか節分とかいろいろそれ全部もうやらせてないんです。同じ場所に住んでる。
熱い信仰心。
イスラム教はこれのはもう全然ないから。
それで欲しいな。
それで欲しいな。欲しい？
返せ待って欲しい。
やらない全然やらない。
日本各地にある外国を調査。ガチ〇〇シリーズ。
It does appear, though, with the context of the video, they're kind of taking the piss out of these people, which is just good. Because if you can laugh at something, it shows that it's on its last legs. It's on its death legs, if you can laugh at it, right? That's why a lot of people who are very much so on the woke side of things at the moment, they hate that their ideology, they hate the whole trans stuff, the gender Marxism, the trans Marxism and all of this stuff, right? That was doing a lot of damage, but they hate the fact that people now just see it for the stupidity that it is and they're laughing at it. That's what they really hate. That's what they really can't stand. They can't stand now that they've been turned into a laughing stock. That's what they really can't stand. But this is Now, at least we can laugh at this stuff. At least Japan is in a place where we can laugh at this stuff. We can't laugh at this stuff in the UK because we've allowed this stuff to get to nigh on takeover proportions. So we can't laugh at this stuff the way that the Japanese can at the moment. But that should not make them complacent of the danger. That should not make them complacent of the danger, and they should understand that these people have nothing to bring to their society, and they need to be removed. They need to be removed. It's that simple. They need to be sent back to whatever Muslim land of their choosing that isn't Japan, and they can do their whole Muslim stuff there if they want to. They can just keep it out of us. The planet would be better off without it, but at least they go out there and they're not bothering the good Japanese people. They're not bothering the good European people, not bothering the Americans. They're not bothering the Brits. They're not bothering the Irish. All of these other places, rattle them off, right? Rattle them off, whatever. As long as they're not bothering anybody else, then fuck it, let them go. Let them go. And if the women want to go with them, I know a lot of instances they don't exactly have a choice, which is why I said the planet would be better off without Islam. But if the women want to go with them, then obviously they can. But it just makes, at the end of the day, it's a matter of survival now. It's a matter of survival. In many instances, I talk to people now and they say, "Oh, you can't do that. These people were born here," or whatever it is. But I'm like, it's a matter of survival. At this point, very sadly, it's getting to the point now, more and more and more people are realizing it's us or them. I don't like that. But blame the treacherous politicians that enabled it. That's why I'm going to feel very sorry for many people whom in the future, when we win, so to speak, that they're going to end up suffering consequences, despite the fact that in many ways you could argue that they haven't necessarily done anything wrong. They just, moved here legally, but the government had no right to invite them because it wasn't what their people wanted. It's very, very sad. And that's why I, tend to think that a lot of the immigration that we say is legal has been illegal because the government had no right to do it. The government had no right to do it. And that's why I think we need to start reframing the conversation, especially if we're going to address the problem of legal immigration. People need to understand that what has been done to you, in terms of the legal immigration that's been allowed, was illegal in and of itself. That's how people really start making sense of the situation now. That's how we're going to start solving it. What are our hyper-feminized, hyper-nanny, overbearing mother, Munchausen by proxy mothers in government concerned with planning us or getting ready, preparing us, I should say, for climate lockdowns, because it's coming. It's a nice warm day out in the UK at the moment. It's a lovely summer's day, perfect day to some washing out, maybe have a barbecue when you go home from work or whatever. It's been a lovely day, nice and warm. But now, what's been happening in Canada at the moment, and Canada is obviously a nice liberal, multicultural paradise where they have all the same Islamic colonization, but you have suicide hotlines calling you, trying to convince you, hey, do you want to kill yourself today? Save the government some money. All of this stuff, right? They tried to ban people from going hiking in the woods. Basically, tried to ban people from going on hikes. And everybody can see that this is a test for climate lockdowns, that when it's a nice day outside, to stop you from going out and getting your vitamin D to keep your immune system nice and strong, right? That's one of the wars that I realize people don't know enough about, is the war on vitamin D and just the war on your health in general. The only reason they're trying to cover up the sun, nothing to do with cooling down the planet or anything like that. They don't want you getting the main vitamin that's helping you with your immunity and stuff like that and helping you remain strong in your immune system. But they tried to say that hiking causes fires and stuff like that due to the dead wood and all stuff like that, but then they realized that excuse wasn't working. They're now telling Canadians, in order to stop them from going hiking, that we're banning you from the woods because you could break your leg walking your dog. They're trying to go with any reason they can, no matter how flimsy, just to stop people from going outside, to stop people from being healthy and all of these things. Oh yeah, just stay inside, just stay in the dark, just keep on masturbating to porn and all of this stuff, right? Making yourself weak and effeminate and all of this disgusting stuff. Don't do any of that good stuff that's making you actually going to feel good and strong and any of this stuff, right? And actually benefit your family because they're being healthy and all of this stuff. actually going to give you a good quality of life, right? It's a fulfilling venture. Don't do any of that stuff because it's so hot outside. It's hot outside, and we are so concerned for your welfare. And you might break a leg, so the venture is going to be like, don't do anything because something could happen. That's the thing.
Me going for a walk in the woods is going to cause a fire. I can understand why people think that that's ridiculous. But the reality is, it's not that you might cause a fire. It's that if you're out there walking in the woods and you break your leg, we're not going to come and get you, because we have emergency responders that are out focused on a fire that is threatening the lives of New Brunswickers. And if you take your boat out fishing in a pond in Crown Land and you capsize, we're not going to be able to come and help you out, because our first responders are focused on an immediate and serious threat to our province. And so it's the possibility of diverting emergency resources away from where they are really needed. But me going for a...
You could just go up and clear the deadwood, you know? You could just go up and clear the deadwood and make sure that the fire is less likely to start. You know? You could always do that. But this is the thing. This is the thing. They're trying to make it so that people staying indoors when the weather's nice and all stuff like that. This is a trial. Try and get people to go along with any reason that they possibly can to trial any kind of lockdown. We saw that the COVID lockdowns were health-based, and the scare that it produced was so good that people went along with it. Because if you create fear, people will follow you if they believe that you have the solution, right? Fear is the number one thing that our governments want, because if they have you scared, you'll be more easily manipulated to doing what they want you to do, right? It's hard to manipulate someone if they're not scared, right? That's why you see in the movies the big bad guy or whatever, the only time he really, will get what he wants, or one of the things he'll try and do, especially if it's a horror film, is scare, right? If you're scared, you'll be a lot easier to manipulate because you want that fear to end. That's a natural response, right? You don't want to be scared anymore. Especially if you think that it's a threat to your life or something like that, or a threat to your family's lives. Why do you think bad guys in films will go after people's kids and not necessarily after them themselves if they want to extort something out of them? Right? Because they want to make the person scared that something will happen to the child, or happen to the teenager, or happen to the husband, whatever it is. Or they'll like in Taken, they want to try and manipulate Liam Neeson's character. So I believe they take his daughter. His daughter gets kidnapped, I believe. And they say they're going to do all this horrendous stuff to try and make people scared so that they'll do what they want. They kidnap people, people in areas of the world where crime is high. They'll kidnap people's relatives and hold them for ransom because they want money, right? Fear is such an effective motivator. Fear is such an effective motivator. They want to make you think. They want to make you scared of any little thing that could potentially happen, no matter how small. They want to bring in more totalitarian measures. They want to make it so when the sun is high in the sky, you have to be locked down in your homes by government decree, right? Because in some way, somehow, it's going to harm you. Summer's hot. Well, at least it should be. Summer's hot. Get over it, get used to it, and enjoy it. While we still can. But the biggest thing is, don't fall for this crap. Don't fall for this crap. And another crap you shouldn't fall for is Inevitable Pinky. So Inevitable Pinky, quite clearly some kind of leftist influencer I say influencer, she's got nearly 3,500 followers. But I believe she's called Inevitable Pinky because she has pink hair or something. And she has the pride flag in her bio and stuff like that. It's classic liberal female, right? And she pointed out on a photo, which I'll show you in a moment, ladies and gentlemen, because I want to see if you can spot the difference, as Callum pointed out, as a CAD secretary pointed out. Says, this is the real England. People enjoying themselves with a band on a sunny Sunday afternoon. Not the doom and gloom that the hashtag Gammon falsely paint. Now, Gammon is what's used as a racial epithet towards white people. And I've used it. I've called James O'Brien James O'Gammon, right? I use it quite affectionately from time to time. And she put up this She put up this image. Quite clearly, she's critiquing or attempting to critique a lot of the people online like myself who speak about the dangers of diversity and multiculturalism, because we see towns like Luton, for example, see towns like Blackburn that have been outright taken over and colonised, all of the towns where the rape gangs have been prevalent, cities in Wales even, including Swansea and Cardiff, even cities that are predominantly, seemingly at least, white British, which somebody actually clarified for me in a comment, somebody that lives there. Apparently Rill is being used as a dumping ground for all kind of criminals and all stuff like that at the moment. I was very shocked to hear that, and very, very sad. Very, very sad. But this is the photo that she shared, not realising the pit that she dug for herself when she tried to say about the Gammons saying that about diversity and multiculturalism and all the rest of it. So you can see here, just let me know what you see, ladies and gentlemen. You're going to see a lot of people, if you're watching, if you're listening, not watching, you're seeing a lot of people that look very similar. You're seeing a lot of people that look very similar. Namely, that they seem to be, at the very least, native British people, for the most part, of what we would, kind of describe as like either Anglo-Saxon or like European descent, right? A lot of English people, for the most part. This is the real England. People enjoying themselves with a band on a sunny afternoon. Not doom and gloom like the Gammon falsely paint is what her post was. Again, ladies and gentlemen, some of you should know, the CAD secretary with his ONS and GeoGuessr skills pointed out that a queer white woman living in an 88% white area does not understand why people are protesting immigration. And here's the graph that he shared on his X post saying that. You can see here it says 88.1% white in the area, imply that it's 88%, i.e. very, for the most part, ethnically homogenous, which is a good indicator in today's society that it is a very safe area. And this is another one that he shared in the comment section of the same post, which just goes to show how deluded this person is when it's not very diverse, is it? So for those of you, again, who are listening, not watching, you're seeing on the screen, it says Black, British, Black, Welsh, Caribbean, or African Caribbean, 0.0. Black, British, Black, Welsh, Caribbean, or African, or other Black, 0.0. Asian, British, Asian, Welsh, Bangladeshi, 0.0%. And Pakistani as well, 0%. So basically, the point being made is that she's living in a very, very nice area. She's living in an extremely nice, ethnically homogenous, very likely high trust, prosperous area. And obviously there is the one guy in the background which you would have seen in the picture. So maybe there's a little bit of discrepancy within these numbers. Maybe. But she's taking her very limited viewpoint based on her community, which is very safe and very ethnically homogenous, and using that to extrapolate against everybody that's critiquing any kind of immigration. I dare say, if you were to put her into a community like Luton, or you to put her into a community like London, where, as I said, it's so multicultural and diverse and paradise that a rape is reported every hour, her perspective, I think, would change very quickly. Obviously, she'd be fighting this internal struggle in her brain not to allow it to change, because people who are right all along could never be right. She has to always be right. These people have to always be right, obviously. Because diversity has always been our strength, did you know? Multiculturalism is our strength. We should always take care with people that say this, like Fraser Nelson and all other people that try and say this from their lovely, safe, privileged, gated communities. that try to extol the fruits of diversity and multiculturalism. And they've never eaten of the fruits themselves, and they've never had said fruits forced on them. It's a little bit like Karl Marx in his privileged undertakings of dining in French cafes and all the rest of it, waging his rhetorical and written war on capitalism, whilst reaping the rewards and fruits of capitalism in many instances. Makes you think, doesn't it? That maybe pink hair and rainbow flags, not the sign of a very intelligent individual. That'll do it for the day. Thank you very much for watching, as always, ladies and gentlemen. Hope you have a fantastic morning, afternoon, evening, night, wherever you are. Diolch yn fawr. Thank you for watching. Hwyl fawr. We will see you next time. You take care now. Godspeed.